that most successful implementations come from doing things that we already know work, not from some new program or new idea. It's usually just doing a better job with things that are already in place in our schools. I mean, and we know it works, don't we? We know that when schools have a real clear focus on learning, when they create collaborative teams, when they have a results orientation, we know that things get better. We know that when teams work together interdependently to help kids learn, when they clarify the essential outcomes, when they agree on what kids should know and be able to do, when they create common assessments that tell us whether kids have learned it or not, and for those who haven't learned it, they provide more time and support. Those who have learned it, they extend and enrich their learning. We know the things that teams can do to help them be more effective. We know that those teams that create norms, that use protocols in their work, that are real clear about expectations for their meetings, we know that those teams work better. We know what we need to do to help kids learn, to help teachers feel better about their work. But the big question is, why don't we do it? See, best practices are pretty commonly known, but uncommonly practiced. We know what helps kids do better. We know what teachers need to do a better job. But as Paul Nutt said, while this might be common knowledge, the fact in most schools is that it's pretty uncommon practice. But a great plan doesn't get the job done. And see, it's because implementation, that piece in the middle, that's missing. Implementation is probably the least understood and the least supported part of the school improvement process. We can have this gap between research and practice, but until we get implementation on top of it, we don't close it, and things don't change in our schools. And it is that implementation stage that is the most difficult, and it's that when we get to implementation, you're going to hear me say it again, the actual implementation, that's the stage where most initiatives fail. As I said earlier, we know what works, but am I willing to change? Am I willing to make that commitment? We know that working on collaborative teams is far better than working in isolation. The research is everywhere. Yet am I really willing to expose my practice and sit and talk with my colleagues about how to do this better? We know that the better informed I am as a teacher, the more effectively I plan. The more effectively I plan, the better lessons I present in the classroom. The better lessons I present, the more my kids will learn. We know that. But are we really willing to take a look at data in a pre-post test kind of a sequence, even though I know that makes a difference? It's that gap between what I know is best practice and what I'm willing to do forms often is the biggest barrier, the biggest implementation gap, that 12-inch ruler that we face. I think at this stage it's helpful with the ruler, the ruler test, to be honest with people and to let them know that change is hard. And we know that change is hard. But point back to past successes where we've gotten through this together and we know this works. And point back to that as you move forward. It isn't going to be easy. We're going to get through this together. I'm not expecting it overnight. I'm not expecting it to be perfect the first time out. Be honest with people. Change is hard. But doesn't mean just because it's hard that we don't do it.